I was so happy that I moved out from my parents' house. In fact, they had encouraged me to do so when I was 25 years old, and I was just happy that I had found a small, cozy house in a peaceful neighborhood in my town. And it was just a small paradise. But if I had known about this small dark side of this neighborhood, I would have I would have thinking twice of moving in this house. But after I moved in and settled down, I started to introduce myself to my next door neighbors, and they were all happy. There were some young couples, young families, and even some elderly people. And there was one particular neighbor, the one to my next door to right of my house, was a home to a single woman named Sandra. Sandra was in her early 30s and she was very beautiful, I admit to that. She was very happy to see a young man move into her next door, and ever since that day we started to small talk when we ran into each other either by my mailbox or by my car or if I'm getting home from work. But not long after that happened, I started to see there was a lot of things changed. In fact, she started being flirting with me a lot more, inviting me over for dinner or for wine, which I declined since I was either busy or had something else to do. I was like, I did saw the signs of that she was flirting with me, but I was not interested at. But one day, it all changed other things because Sandra started seeing a girl had been at my house more often, and it was actually my girlfriend. I was already in a relationship, even though despite that Sandra was flirting with me, but I should have mentioned that I was already seeing someone else. If I had done that, would have this would have this prevented from what I was going to go through and and what my girlfriend was going to go through? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But overall, from that, she started seeing this girl start showing up at my place more frequently. And her name was Nicole, my girlfriend actually. She was actually just, well, Sandra, she asked me one point who this particular girl were, and I could just simply have lied, saying this is just a friend of mine, but I told them I'd decided to just come to clean. I said, well, Sandra, that's actually my girlfriend. She was like, your girlfriend? Yeah, me and Nicole have been dating for a while now. We actually been knowing each other for a long time. And she took it very much offensive, apparently, that because I knew that she was in had some feelings for me, but I was never interested in her. Even if I was single, I would have been going out with Sandra, not because of her, not because that she's beautiful or anything. It just, if she would have been more relaxed, more, not be so, more instant or consistent or persisting of being didn't flirt with me like that, I would have given her a chance. But maybe not, but I don't know so sure about that myself anymore though. But anyways, I told Sandra the girl was my girlfriend, and she took it very things way further than I expected that she would. I probably at first I expected that she would stop doing her flirting and realized there's no way for her to be with me. But boy, was I wrong. She really took a whole different turn of this way. Because shortly after, sometimes Nicole started staying over in my place for the weekend. And one night, we heard some sounds, but we didn't see what was happening. So by the next morning, we found that Nicole's car's tire has been slashed, all four of them, and there was even her her windshield had also been smashed. That was the sound that we heard. But how did we not see that until in the morning? Well, I didn't have a my porch light didn't reach the car, so we didn't see. And even though the street light was, well, it didn't illuminate my driveway, so we didn't even saw it until in the morning. But I did install some floodlights afterwards, just in case if this happened. I didn't know at first who was doing this. So I helped. Nicole was terrified. Why she was targeted by by someone. At the time, I didn't even know who could have been doing this. I mean, my mind even crossed out that it could have been Sandra at all. But anyways, I decided to simply help Nicole with repair some of the change the tires and the windshield. And every time when she came over, there was always some things happened. Like others or there were some scratching on the car by some key or something, either scratching on the tires and or someone has spray painted a car like cheater or some other words I prefer not to mention. I was like getting tired of this. And even Nicole was getting word that she was so terrified that she didn't come over anymore. But I told her not to worry. I will handle this perfectly well. And I decided to have a camera to point at my driveway from my house, but also had a night vision on it so that it would be recording at both day and night. And for the first few days when Nicole came over, nothing happened. We thought maybe this vandalizer had moved on, but boy, were we so wrong. Because one night I had alarm on my phone. This camera was connected to my phone, so I could easily see. And we saw this figure, and I immediately recognized it. It was Sandra, and it hit me. Ever since Sandra was in fact did make a statement that she was interested in me in from the beginning, I never thought that she would go this far. But as soon as I get out of the house, Sandra was gone. She had spray painted again at the car and even smashed the windshield. I had enough. But I decided to confront her in the morning. And I did, but she played dumb that she never had done nothing at all. In fact, she was innocent. I told her I had recording. She played that she never done anything, that it must be someone else that looks like her. But I was like, no, there is no one else that was doing this, and I had even enough of this. I told her I'm going to police with this. But she still played dumb. But I even showed her on my phone that I had recorded. And she could see it was her. And then she come clean and she said she was doing it because she was the one that's supposed to be with me because she believed we were destined to be together. I was like, what? She was clearly so stupid to believe all that. But I said, well, it was nice to know you. Still going to police, and she begged and demanded I did not do that because it would ruin her reputation in the neighborhood and it would also get her fired and kicked out from the house. But I was like, I don't care. If you had even done anything like this from the start, you wouldn't even have been going to have this confrontation. So I just turned around, and as I was about to leave, she yelled at me and even rushed into me and tried to attack me. But I was like, hey, stop. And some of my neighbors actually overheard this happening, and some actually ran out for the house and grabbed Sandra behind and hold her down, and I called for police. And, well, let's say it was happened that the police arrested her for attacking me for assault and also damaging my girlfriend's property, when she still denied that it was even her doing it, that I was the one doing it because I was so jealous of her love. But I showed the police my evidence, and I even showed them the other damage reports that had been done. And, well, she was evicted from her house, she was fired from her work, and she lost all of her friends and all those that believed in her. And, well, she ended up in a jail for at least a couple of years for this. But do I care? Not at all. Do I wish to see her? Not at all. Did I move out from the house? Nope. Still live here. And in fact, I had Nicole moved in with me only about 6 months later. And just saying, now we are married. Yeah, you heard me right. Nicole is now my wife and we have a kid also. I sometimes wondered what would happen if I never even confronted Sandra or even we never discovered it was her? I was like, at least the one thing I was smart enough to have this camera pointed at Nicole's car at the time. Otherwise, who knows how long this was going on? And who else would even think if Sandra would even go so far to even maybe do something with Nicole, like attacking her of all places? Well, Sandra, I want to say this to you. Let us never meet ever again. Stay away from us. Having a good relationship with your neighbors is absolute the good thing because you can be rely on to help them and they can help you if you need that. But living next door to a neighbor that's an absolute creep is the absolute nightmare. It happened to me when I had a neighbor that moved in next door to me, and boy, before it even happened, my neighborhood was just so peaceful. But when this guy moved in next door to me, it all changed. Not for me, but for all of us. My name is Lisa. I was 22 years old when this all happened, and I was also in a relationship with a guy, but still am, and his name is Mark. And he's about 23 years old when this happened. And like I said, I was living in this neighborhood, and one day a moving van came to my next door house, which had been vacant for a while now. And this young man, later named Ryan, in his early 30s, single man, moved in, and at first he seemed to be very kind, very nice man, very helpful. But things started to change a little bit, and it was only about shortly after he settled down. I think I would say about a few weeks after they moved in, we got to know each other. When out of the blue, he asked me if I wanted to go out with him. He said that I was gorgeous and that was beautiful and that he had got a liking to me. I was flattered, I told him, but I told him also that I'm afraid I had to say to accept no because I was in a relationship. And he didn't believe me that though because he didn't take that well. He claimed that we were destined to be and that I was leading him on. It's like, whoa, 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 leading him on. I was like asked to demand to know what or how he thought that. And he said all conversations we had together, I was like, that was just a friendly neighbor talk, not more than that. And I just left him alone, that's standing by his on his property. And when Mark came over the same day, I just told him what Ryan told me, and he's still laughing about it. It's like, are you serious? He literally said that? I nodded and laughed, but yeah, he literally said that. It was crazy. Like, I only known him for a couple of weeks, and he thought that we were destined to be together, and when I rejected him, he didn't take well, and I thought maybe that we would put it behind us and that he moved on. Did he move on? Not at all. Instead, he started to ask me more about Mark when I and like what he's like and I was like I told him to stop to probing me or to ask me out or I was not never interested in him at all. Not because that he is a bit older than myself, but I was not interested at all. But Ryan really took it very badly though because he never stopped. And I firmly told Mark that I need some help with this. Mark, God bless his heart, he is a strong man, and in fact, he had been doing martial arts since he was a kid, so if it would come to that, he would definitely protect me, defend me if needed. And it did came to that, because one day I was in my yard taking care of the flowers, and Ryan just walked up, asked me if I want to go out with him again, like the 20th time. Yeah, if it was a 20th time, I don't know. I just lost count. I mean, it could have been a 20th time, but I said firmly no. Mark, Ryan, I'm not interested in you. And then as about to leave, he grabbed my arm and said, "You and I are going on a date. That's final. I don't believe that your so Kyle's called boyfriend Mark or whatever his name is that good for you. I'm much better for him. I want good looking." And as it was happening, I yelled so loud, and my front door slammed wide open. Marcus stood there, looked at Ryan, and was like, "Get your hand off my girl." Ryan stood firmly and said, "No, she's my girl." Marcus walked up to Ryan and suddenly grabbed his arm and pushed him down and said, "If you don't, I will break your arm and smash your head in the concrete without hesitating." And that made Ryan scared and was like, "Okay, okay, 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 let me go." Mark let him go and Ryan ran home. About a month later, Ryan moved out, and that was a good thing too because I didn't want to see him ever again. And I thanked Mark over and over that day, and still do, that he protected me so well. And I don't know where Ryan moved, but let's hope from this. Hope that next lady doesn't have to suffer the same thing as I did, because I cannot see that happen to others. But do I think Ryan had learned from his mistake not to be doing the same thing? Uh, Probably, but I'm not so sure. And in fact, even if Ryan would come back, I would not hesitate to just say, "You don't show your face here, or Mark will do push your face in concrete," without hesitating. And to Mark, I love you so much. To Ryan, you were the pain in the butt of the neighborhood for a short time, and please stay away from me. Thank you. If I had known what kind of neighbor Derek was, I would not have moved to this neighborhood at all. To me, he is only known as Nightmare Neighbor. Most of my friends and family would agree on that part. You may understand why I called him Nightmare Neighbor. My name is Sarah. I was 24 years old when I moved to this house. I was really excited to have finally taken the next step in my independent adult life, and I was just happy to take the next step. Shortly after I had settled in, I started walking around in the neighborhood to introduce myself to my new neighbors. Everyone was happy to see a new face in the neighborhood. One particular young couple, Jenny and Tony, were also around in their early to mid 20s. They were happy to see a new young person around their own age in the neighborhood. They lived about two houses down from my left side, but when I first met them, they warned me about Derek, my next door neighbor to my right. I asked him why. He was known in the neighborhood for causing troubles and was very known for to be, well, creepy. I asked them what he meant by that, and they told me that one year earlier, there was a young lady around my age lived in the same house, and Derek was pestering her so repeatedly to ask her out. I asked more about him, and turned out he's in his 60s, and he asked a girl out who was around the same age as me, in his 60s, and she was in her early 20s. I felt, whoa, so weird. I told them I will make sure that's not happening again. They told me that they cannot just see new young couples or new young women move in the house and suddenly move out in less than a year. I asked him how many times it had happened. Jenny told me it has happened at least 5 times as long as they've been living in this neighborhood. All cause of Derek. I was like, whoa. And, well, from that day on, when I saw Derek, I had this feeling I really had to stay away from him, but I wanted to also be very friendly, to at least be neighbor friendly to him, just all be his good side. I didn't want to have anything bad to happen, but just being so friendly towards him was like a signal to him, oh, I'm interested in you. And then he often came over to my house just for chit chat and just to know me more better, and I don't mind that. It's because when I was a kid, my parents told me always to be friendly to our neighbors and build a good relationship with them. If if I would need help with something, it's always a good thing to build that. And so I did. And even though that he took it as a absolute wrong way, it's not my fault. It is how he thought it, not me. I was only friendly to him, not like a flirting or anything. And also, I also had a boyfriend by the name Brian. He actually had, we had made plans to move in together. We had been dating for about 2 years at this point, and he was living its own place until his own lease was over. So when Derek asked me once if I had someone in my life, I was like, actually, yes, I have a boyfriend. But he said, I had never seen this boyfriend over your place. And I told him it's because that he lived across town and he has a lot of work to do. And he was actually going to move in with me after his own lease was over. Derek laughed and said, oh yeah, okay, I'll see what happened. And they came then only about 2 months later when Brian finally moved in. And that day, Derek came over to ask, oh, is this your brother? I laughed and said, no, this is my boyfriend Brian I told you about. Derek's face from a smile to almost frowned, almost shocked. Brian was real. His was he was like 6'2" and very very boldly built, like if he could have been a professional bodybuilder or something. But he was not at all. He was actually a gym instructor. And he was another guy you probably would even want to win against in a fight with. But LeBrian introduced himself. Derek just shook his hand and said that his name is Derek and was glad to have a new neighbors to live in his neighborhood. And then he went home. I told Brian all over things of what's been happening and what Jenny and Tony had told me about Derek. And Brian's like, maybe maybe just they're exaggerating about the story. But I shook my head, no, I don't think they would. I actually believe them, but so far Derek hadn't even done anything to be, well, as flirty to me though, more as just, typical friendly neighbor persona. And now that Brian was living with me, I thought maybe Derek would finally see the relevant real. Now that we're living together in this peaceful neighborhood, I thought maybe now Derek's strange behavior that I've been told about wouldn't happen, and now living together with Brian was gonna be so peaceful. But not long after this happened. One evening, we had a knock on the door, and Brian opened, and two officers stood outside. Brian asked what's the matter, the problem is, and one of the officers said that they had received a noise complaints from our neighbor. I was like, noise complaint? I even walked up to them and said we haven't done anything. We were just watching some TV, and they got to actually hear the TV on a more very normal volume. They they apologized and they left. I was like, okay, that's weird. But Brian shook his head and was like, nothing to worry about. Maybe just you know, an accident. I was like, okay, yeah, that happens. But this happened more frequently, almost every single day, or almost twice or three times in a week, in fact. We were getting so tired of this, and even after like the maybe at the 10th time it happened, we started getting a little bit annoyed, and we even asked the police who is the one that been calling in. But they couldn't even tell because this person said it was anonymous. So we wouldn't even know. And in fact, at the time, we hadn't even no idea that this could have been acted with Derek. But but most of the time when we had these complaints was either we just been watching some TV or we were just sitting outside in the front porch, just small talk. Or if we had Jenny and Tony over for dinner or something. Even one time when we had a barbecue party with just some from a few neighbors, they were the same thing. We were getting tired of this. And eventually, we later find out it was Derek. He was doing this to harass us so that we would move out. Or at least, so that this would eventually cause problem between me and Brian so that he would move out or something. I don't even know. But after they find out it was Derek, we complained to the police and they told Derek firmly to stop harassing us. Did he stop? Not at all. Eventually, he only get more complaints more frequently, more like almost every single day. But eventually, police had enough of this. So one day when Derek came over when Brian was at work, Derek told me that I had to move out because I'm disturbing the neighborhood's peace. I've said I'm not. You are. You're the one that come calling on us. No, we don't have to do anything at all. Then Derek suddenly just yelled in my face, "You are a nuisance to society. You need to be put down." And then he wielded a gun in my face. I was so scared, but I just slammed the door in his face and locked it and called the police in another different room. And he stood there with the gun pointing at my door, yelling to come out because he needed to put me down because it would be a good thing for society. But the police arrested him for cause of that, of death threats. And not long after that, he was sentenced behind bars for at least a number of years for this. And, well, good thing because I don't know what else to do. But ever since Derek was moved out from this house and he was put behind bars, the whole neighborhood was really felt so relieved that he was gone. Not long afterwards, a new young family moved in his house and they became good friends with us. I'm just saying, Derek, you really put a lot of scare not only in me and but all of us who lived here and those what before us. So please, you may stay behind bars forever. So yeah, Derek, you can stay there, and I don't even care if you even remain there as long as you live. So please, please let us never meet again.